Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Andy.
And Andy, this week we are going to be talking about the new movie from Benny Safdie starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, The Smashing Machine.
Yep.
This is a movie that we were both looking forward to. Almost one of those movies, it's more of a curiosity because, as we've talked about before, we both we like The Rock as an actor. He's charismatic, he's likable, just doesn't have the best IMDb. And so, we're like, he needs that role that's going to actually like mean something, that you look back on and go like, well, what's the good The Rock movie? And you go, oh, it's this one. And we were hoping that this would be that movie. So, I'm going to give one of my briefest summaries ever.
Okay.
And then,
there's not much to say, is there?
Yeah, we'll jump in. Yeah, basically, The Smash Machine follows a little bit of the life of MMA fighter Mark Kerr, who was in the early days of the UFC before combatants were well known and well paid. And even though he seemed invincible in the ring, he was a very vulnerable person in regular life. And Andy, was the Smashing Machine good?
So this is a tough one because this is a super mediocre movie with a great performance from The Rock.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just kind of difficult. Like, just completely average in every way, except that The Rock is like 5 levels above the material. And he's just killing it.
Yeah, it's such a strange movie because
it's weird.
Yeah, it's a movie that I definitely think I walk away going, I respect it more than I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how grounded and realistic it is.
Yeah,
but that's also kind of a reminder of why Hollywood takes liberties with real stories, because in the end you're just kind of left wondering like, well, why did we bother with this particular story?
That's my biggest thing. I mean, no disrespect to Mark Kerr, but I'm like, did this guy really warrant a movie about his life?
Yeah. So I did something that I never do before we record podcasts, but because I did a lot of traveling this past weekend driving, I listened to podcasts. So I listened to the Big Picture podcast as they talked about this movie, and Van Lathan was on it. And I just got to give credit to him because he expressed exactly what I was thinking. He's like, Van Lathan said, I kept watching this movie going, all right, what point is something really dramatic going to happen that is the reason why we're watching this movie? And the moment just never came. And I was like,
it never happens.
That's exactly what I was thinking is, because one thing is, I know nothing about this guy, Mark Kerr. I know it was a documentary. Right. I didn't watch the documentary. I don't know anything about his life. So I was fully up for like, oh, anything can happen that's going to make this guy this, whatever he is, whether he's a heroic character or a tragic character. I was just waiting for what it was going to be.
And he's kind of neither.
He's just kind of a guy. And you're like, oh, okay.
He's a guy who says tummy a lot.
Yeah. So that is the like thing about him is he's, as I sort of said in my opener, like, I mean, he's this big, physical, imposing guy. Mm-hmm. And, was for a stretch dominant in these fights. But he's like kind of a sensitive guy, I guess, is the short of the takeaway of the movie. But he's a complex guy. I mean, there's kind of a lot to unpack with the character, but it doesn't necessarily add up to like a really fascinating character. It's just, it really does show a lot of aspects of him. Like he's a good guy. It shows a lot of scenes where it's like, oh, this is a good guy. But then you get the scenes where he's kind of a jerk to his girlfriend, because a lot of the story is him and his girlfriend character played by Emily Blunt. It's their relationship. And I was like, it's just kind of a messy relationship. But yeah, so it's a tricky character, like a complex character, but not necessarily in the most fascinating way.
Yeah, and it's a really strange movie in the sense that, like, you just never really... So it'll just be like, like you said, like, okay, he's nice. And he's towards the beginning of the movie, there's this scene where he's in like a hospital or a doctor's office waiting room, and he's talking to this older lady and like her grandson or something. And he's just this really sweet, kind of like childlike in a way guy. But then it's like, you also get these glimpses of him being like super ultra controlling over his girlfriend and stuff. But they don't really set any of that up. It just comes out of nowhere. Like, it's like he's just going along, and it's same thing like with his drug use or steroid use or whatever that is, where it's just like they really don't dive into it. All of a sudden, he's just like an addict who's ODing, and
Yeah.
it's just really strange. And they do the same thing with Emily Blunt's character too, who also is good in this movie. I mean, I think Emily Blunt's just incapable of being bad, but it's just like, I mean, and these are kind of spoilers, but not really. All these biopics have characters with drug problems. It's just like all of a sudden she's just an addict, like an alcoholic. And it's like they really didn't establish that at all. And all of a sudden, like she's spiraling. And I don't know. It's just weird how they just kind of dropped that stuff into the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that so the relationship is just like I was saying with the Mark Kerr character is they do a good job of making it feel very real because the conflicts are all very real. Like none of them are over the top and dramatic, but in the end you kind of are left wondering like, well, why did I just kind of watch this couple who is sometimes good together and sometimes bad together and that's
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Yeah.
But I did think like they did a good job of never making it feel like one person was the good guy and the other person's the bad guy. Sometimes you're
They,
sympathetic towards him, sometimes you're sympathetic towards her, and
Yeah, they do a good job with that. I'm not saying didn't think this movie was awful by any
right.
means. Like clearly Benny Safdie is talented and everything, and I don't know. It was just, and I guess I should also point out like I'm not a UFC or Pride guy at all, so I
Yeah.
don't know how much that affects, but affects my viewing of this movie. That's just not my thing, and really I don't think this movie. Maybe because it does insist on being so grounded, it certainly didn't make me want to become a UFC or whatever these different leagues are. Like, I thought that MMA stuff was honestly just dull and repetitive.
Mm. Uh, yeah, I mean, I liked it. I'm not a big UFC guy either. Like I've watched some UFC fights and I can enjoy it. I definitely am not one of the morbid types who's like, yeah, let's watch all the highlights and the most disturbing, injuries and
Yeah.
bloodiest stuff. Like that's not really me. I actually kind of appreciate like the sport aspect of it and the athleticism and
Hmm.
that sort of stuff. But uh, yeah, I mean, the fights were well done. But yeah, there's nothing that's gonna like I'm gonna walk away with again like a lasting memory of like, oh, you know what movie
Yeah.
really captured the feeling of watching an intense
Hmm.
fight is the Smashing Machine.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I'm with you. Like, it really feels like a whole lot of expert people making just a not a very profound story is sort of what it
Yeah.
is.
Hmm. And then it just kind of ends. And I mean, you're just kind of like, okay, that was a movie that I just watched.
Yeah, the ending is really, really kind of sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And I'll just go ahead and say this too. Like, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like a big part of the story too is Mark Kerr's friend. Is it Mark Coleman? Is that his
Uh,
name?
yeah, I've got the thing pulled up here. That sounds right. Yeah, Mark Coleman.
Yeah. I mean, no offense, but just what a bland, uninteresting character to have in this movie. Like, I understand he's a real person, and no
Mm.
disrespect to him if that's how he was in real life, but like, just like that movie, I felt like devoted a lot of time to that guy, and that guy just bored me to death.
Okay. I actually really, I kind of liked that character, but I think one of the things that I liked
Did
about him
you?
is, I don't know if you noticed that that's a not an actor who's playing that part. That's a
Yeah.
guy who's a real fighter, and I thought they did a really good job. I mean, I didn't know that watching. It's not like I was watching going, oh, that's that guy. I know him as a fighter. I was watching going like,
Yeah.
I don't recognize this guy, and kind of wondering like, I wonder if this is
Mhm.
not a regular actor or if I've just never seen him for some reason. And I saw he's like
Yeah.
a fighter. I was like, oh, I think they did Benny Safdie did a really good job of putting him in position to succeed because he just had to kind of be like a nice, likable, kind of normal guy. But
Yeah.
I'll say it's actually kind of true to. I haven't known a lot of people that are involved in like in combat sports. I've known a couple people who have been like really in like were real boxers or really did like some
Hmm.
kind of mixed martial arts, and they are actually all really like chill people. Like it's not what you think of. Like in the
Hmm.
movies, like fighters are always like the real aggressive
Yeah.
types. And I was like, I've always found it to be the opposite. Like guys who really know how to fight usually are really calm and like mellow when they're not fighting.
Right.
And I was like, so it just sort of rung really true to me that these guys are not like the most exciting guys, and like they're kind of just like normal, chill dudes, and then they happen to be really good at fighting.
And that's fine. It just for the amount of time we spent with him, and I guess too, like part of the kind of the last fourth of the movie is Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman both being in this tournament,
Yeah.
and I just found myself super uninterested whether or not they ended up fighting each other or not, and yeah, I don't know. And I guess I should also point out too, like I am kind of negative on bio movies.
Hmm.
I just feel like a lot of them are they just follow a lot of the same beats, and and I understand like in order to warrant making a biopic about the person, they have to have some kind of trial or up and down in their life. So it's just a lot of like the same familiar beats over and over. Like the rise, oh, they get into addiction, the fall, the comeback, and all that stuff. So I don't know, man. Yeah, it was just a lot of blah to me, except for The Rock.
Yeah. So one thing I think we've got to talk about. So, well, two things involved with the Rock's performance. One
Mhm.
thing I should do is I wrote in my notes. I'm going to call him Dwayne Johnson. I feel like this is the movie that finally
I know. I
finally
gotta stop calling
merits
The
calling
Rock.
him Dwayne Johnson. And all the other movies, it's like fine, you're the Rock because you're just being the Rock. But I'm going to call him
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson in this one. I'll forget. I'll call him the Rock. But the two things I'll say
Right.
about it is one is great, great job by whoever did like makeup and stuff because the
Hmm.
Rock is so distinctly
Absolutely.
The Rock, and yet they changed just enough about his look, just enough about his brow or something that I'm like, I don't feel like I'm quite looking at The Rock like I normally do.
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it was really impressive work that I've never watched The Rock in anything and not felt like I'm watching not watching The Rock. You know?
I know. I mean, I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but he really does transform into Mark Kerr in this movie.
Yes, he does. The
Yeah.
only detriment to it being Dwayne Johnson is learning after the fact that he's supposed to be playing Mark Kerr at a point in Mark Kerr's life where Mark Kerr was 25 years old. And it's like,
Yeah.
that, it's definitely would put a totally different feel to the movie if it felt like you were watching somebody in their mid 20s as opposed to when you're watching Dwayne Johnson play this part, you feel like you're watching a guy who's like late in his life, you know? So when he's making these
Yeah.
mistakes and making his comeback, it feels like, oh, yeah, well, this is the end of his fighting career because he's Dwayne Johnson's age. Well, no, like this is a mid 20s guy. It's just a totally different. I don't know. It just changes the feel of the story. Again, not in a way that I'm not like I don't know the Mark Kerr story. I wasn't a problem for me until afterwards. It's just kind of
Right.
surprising to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The problem is they probably couldn't find anyone younger that could even come close to looking like this guy,
that's yeah,
physically, like muscle wise and stuff, other than The Rock.
yeah. I mean it is a sort of a perfect marriage of actor and part.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't fault The Rock for making this movie and being in this movie at all. I think it was a great move for him,
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson.
Well, since we're talking about him and praising him a bit, let's go ahead and have the conversation. You think there's any chance that
Yeah.
this is a performance that's gonna find a nomination come Academy Award time?
I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would have no problem. And I hope I mean I've listened, I'm an old wrestling fan. I've followed The Rock since 1996 when he debuted in the WWF. Like I like The Rock. I have a long history with The Rock. I want to see him succeed, and I mean, I can tell you there's been way more ridiculous nominations for people in movies that aren't doing anything like The Rock's doing in this movie. And it's not just the fact that he physically, looks so different. Like he's doing some really good stuff in this movie. There's three or four like scenes in this movie where I was like, "Oh, dang. Like The Rock just killed it."
Yeah. Yeah, I think where I ultimately land, I wanted this to be like such an overwhelmingly convincing, like, yes, this is definitely.
Yeah.
And I think where I land is kind of like, yeah, I hope, and I think he might get a nomination because I think out of the type of movies that the Academy would recognize, it probably is one of my favorite performances so far this year. I think
Hmm.
the disconnect is, we do our awards at the end of the year like we did for last year, and we're like, what are our favorite five performances? I don't know that he's gonna, be in that. And so I
Yeah.
really wanted it to be that level where I'm like, it's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
not just, yeah, I think it's one of the best of the type of movie that the Oscars would recognize.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not quite there either, but I'm not ruling out that we do our own Oscars. I won't put him on
Yeah,
my
I mean,
list because it's really
yeah,
impressive.
he'll definitely be on the the short list of considerations for sure
Hmm.
because, like I said, he was really good in this movie, and the movie is so dependent on him.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if his performance doesn't work, this movie's a disaster.
Yeah. Um, just another note I want to throw out there is Emily Blunt still very attractive. That's it. That's the end of note.
Okay,
I just wanted to throw that out there. So
it's a good note. I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
yeah,
And like I said, she's I think incapable of giving a bad performance. And her and The Rock, like they've done what they do, Jungle Cruise together. They seem
yeah,
like they have a pretty good friendship, and they have great chemistry, and they do a really good job, whether they're being lovey-dovey or whether, like you said, there's sometimes where she's the bad guy, sometimes he's the bad guy. They do a great job
yeah.
together.
I guess I'll say the one thing is that's a potential downside to her casting in this movie is there were times where I thought I don't know if I'm supposed to feel a certain way about her character that I can't because it's Emily Blunt. Like I don't know if she's supposed to be a little
Hmm.
more like maybe a little more trashy, maybe a little more like useless even, like I don't know if the movie's
Hmm.
trying to communicate like she didn't know how to make his shake. If it was the problem that he's kind of a jerk who changes his shake all the time and she doesn't know,
Or is it
or is it her that
her?
she just can't get it right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, and I think I automatically err to, well, it's not her fault because Emily Blunt just seems so capable. Like, she can't be dumb, That's
Well, yeah, and she usually plays kind of like take charge in control characters.
yeah.
So
So
I think that's right. That's a fair call on your
yeah,
part.
so I mean, like, I'm still to this point, I still don't know on some of those scenes, like, yeah, how I was supposed to view the character
Hmm.
because I view Emily Blunt just a
Yeah.
certain way with a certain level of respect that I don't know if I was supposed to that character. Um,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, this is like I said, it's kind of a weird movie and a hard one to really break down, like kind of even the main beats of the movie because, like you said early, it feels a lot of kind of randomness. Like, oh, here's a addiction storyline, but it kind of just jumps into it and then it kind of just ends, and then here's a storyline with
Yeah.
this. I mean, really, the only main through storylines are well, obviously the fighting, but then the relationship between the two of them, and it builds to something. Well, let me rephrase that. It it has a crescendo that feels like something that was supposed to be built up to that I didn't feel like it really built up to. And I guess we're clear into spoilers now, so sorry for that warning. But
It's
it kind of
fine.
leads up to
Yeah.
this
No,
big
it's
fight
fine.
they eventually have, and eventually like she breaks down and grabs a gun and like she's gonna kill herself, and he has to like wrestle her down and hold her, and it's I think meant to be this big dramatic like, oh, we've been building this tension thing, but I didn't feel
But they hadn't.
right.
Yeah, they hadn't. And again, that's why this is so tricky because they're both phenomenal in that scene.
Yeah,
They're really great, and like that's another example of Dwayne Johnson just shining because he's they're fighting and he's being a jerk and she's being a jerk, but then because he's this monstrous guy, like he's holding her down to prevent her from harming herself, and she's like, just let me go, and like man, that stuff's all great. It's just man, it maybe part of the frustration too is like you want such a great performance like Dwayne Johnson gives in this to just be in a better movie.
yeah, for sure.
Because then I think we would be sitting here going, "Oh, this dude's an absolute lock for at least a nomination."
Yeah, and there's things about the movie that I look at, and it's just a reminder of how hard it is to make a good movie. Because there's elements of
Yeah,
this movie where I go, well, I get what the attraction of that element of the movie was. It didn't work, but I get where it was. So like we talked about it, he's this really like nice guy, and when
hmm
you think about it in the movie, he is nice to everybody he talks to, even the guys he fights. He's like overly nice with the guys he
hmm
fights. Almost the only person he's a jerk to is his girlfriend, and it's kind of just like a
hmm
commentary on like a lot of times unintentionally the people we're most comfortable around you'll be the worst to because you feel like you can,
yeah,
and I think that's kind of like the message in the movie, but it's not really like explored or played out, or no one even ever says it.
yeah.
Maybe that's my fault for needing things just to be said, but I'm like, that's an interesting idea. I don't necessarily walk away feeling like the movie really expressed that interesting idea that well.
hmm Yeah, and I think that's true for like a lot of things we were talking about, like whether it's addiction or this like codependency they have on each other, or like a really cool thing that they kind of tap into is like how does someone who feels like they're unstoppable cope with
Yeah.
losing? That's a cool scene at the beginning of the movie when that guy's interviewing him and he's like, I just cannot even imagine what it's like to lose. And that's another scene where Dwayne Johnson is just phenomenal. And then they really just don't, like, they kind of do, because he's like, oh, he cheated, and he's talking to the Japanese guy and he's like, he hit my head and all this stuff. But then it just kind of fades away a little
Yeah.
bit, and then by the time he loses, again, we're well into spoilers, he loses at the end. It just doesn't have much of an impact. You just kind of go, well, okay, like that's just a thing that happened. And then, like you said, then we kind of get this abrupt ending to the movie, and I don't know, it's like they tried, it's like we've talked about in different movies, like maybe this movie is just trying to do too many things and then therefore is not focusing really well on any of them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
I
know.
mean, and that's always what we say is the hard part about doing a biopic is when you're trying to, you know, capture a person's life, there's so much to
Hmm.
call upon. It's really hard to just do a really focused story.
And I maybe the beginning kind of gave me false hope because it says at the very beginning that it's like this movie takes place between 1997 and 2000. I was like, okay, here we go. We're just getting a snapshot of his, career and stuff. Maybe this will have a little more focus, but I just didn't feel like it did.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, like these big moments, like her getting the gun out and pointing it at her head, they just don't quite land. I don't think like the movie needs them to.
Yeah. Uh, I I do have one question about The Rock's performance. And as we were talking, I just remembered this. As you're talking about the losses and his good acting when he's talking about can't fathom loss, there are two moments in this movie where his character breaks down and cries. One is in the hospital when his friend comes to visit him, and one after the last loss.
Yeah,
And I think in both of them, Dwayne Johnson kind of covers his face, and it fits the story. He's a big fighter guy who's got a lot of pride and doesn't want to be seen crying. But it also made me wonder, like,
yeah, he's
is
ashamed.
is The Rock? Can he not? I would. I don't even mean this criticism. Can he not cry on command? Can he not? Like, does he have to like? Is it bad? Is he bad at acting like crying? Because I can't picture another movie where The Rock cries. Like, I don't think it's something he does in movies. So, uh, I
I don't think so either. Yeah,
yeah, and it just when he covered his face and he's kind of whimpering behind it, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe this is the thing The Rock couldn't do was he couldn't convincingly cry
it,
on camera. I don't know.
that it was a little clunky, but like you said, I guess you could excuse it as like that's just how that's how Mark Kerr cried when he would break down because like you said, like big tough guy doesn't want to be seen crying.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to say anything bad about The Rock's performance because of that, but it was a curiosity to me. Like,
It's fair.
people watch a lot of movies and you watch, especially, you watch a lot of behind the scenes things and you like that sort of stuff. You just kind of wonder, like, sometimes there's, you see something like that, you're like, maybe The Rock was really bad at crying and they were like, I just have him hold a towel over his face. Don't.
Just cover your face, man. Cover
Yeah.
your face.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I just feel like this movie ultimately is going to land in that place that is kind of the worst place for movies to land, where it's like it's just kind of going to be forgotten. After a while, I'm just gonna be like, oh, the Smash Machine, yeah, that was a movie I watched one time.
Yeah, it's tough because it's not awful like him or something like that, but it's not. We're not over the moon about it like we were
Yeah,
weapons or something like
there's
that.
and
It's
it,
tough.
there's just
Here's
nothing. There's like not even that like one scene where it's like, well, the whole movie wasn't great, but this one scene I'll always remember. I guess I'll just kind of remember it as The Rock's best acting performance, and that's kind of that's the takeaway.
I think that will be the legacy of this movie. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think is the Rock's best scene in this movie?
Ooh, that is a good question. Man, because sometimes I think that some of his best scenes are actually the quieter scenes because, like we said,
Hmm.
our history with The Rock is him being a big presence and charismatic performer. So sometimes when he's being a little more demonstrative, it's like, well, this is what he does. And so the quieter scenes were actually the ones that I thought were really good. Uh, Honestly, it might have been even that scene in the doctor's office where he's talking to that lady and he's trying to like he's kind of being sweet and being like, have you heard of the UFC? And she's like, do you all hate each other? And he's like, not at all. And it was just really good.
I was going to say the same thing. To me, it's either that or it's after he ODs and Mark Coleman comes and visits him in the hospital. I just thought he was so good when he is like doing the thing the addicts do, where he's just telling really terrible lies. It's like, oh man, like I was, he's like, I don't know, I just was so sick, and like he's so like he rides that line so well of like a guy, like he's playing a guy who knows that Mark Coleman knows that he's lying, but he's trying to go through with the lies, and I thought there was a lot of good layers to that.
Yeah, that was. And another, again, a good scene because all the guy had to do was just kind of like be real direct, he just kind of, I don't even remember what he said, but it's essentially like a, dude, I know, and then The Rock just kind of breaks down.
It kind of interrupts him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's like, dude, just stop. Like, stop. Yeah. And then I thought a really good scene too, I don't know, towards the end of the movie, I think. Anyway, The Rock's on the phone with like his what's the right word? Sponsor? Is it sponsor, like from rehab? And he's like, do you hear her like yelling at me? And like he's like, I thought he was just really good in that scene.
Yeah.
He's like, do you hear what I have to put up with from her? Like he's like, tattling basically on her, and she's great in that too. But it's stuff like that where it's like, man, The Rock, that just Dwayne Johnson just really doing a great job.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say it because, again, I feel like I'm ripping off the big picture because I listened to that podcast. But they, again, Van Lathan, I think, was the one that pointed out the scene at the carnival where the girlfriend, where Emily Blunt wants to go on the ride, and he doesn't want to. And again, where he talks about his tummy a lot. He's got a sensitive tummy. He can't go on this ride that spins.
So much.
But just the moments of, like, she goes into the ride, and she's riding it, and she's, like, she's ecstatic, she's having a blast in this ride. She's like turning sideways, upside down, big old smile. And then it's him just standing outside, just kind of feeling like he's left on the outside. And there's a lot of like, again, this is one where it didn't actually feel that interesting in the movie, but it's a more interesting movie almost to talk about than to watch, where you're like, there's a lot of that one person feeling on the outside while the other person's on the inside in this movie. I mean, there's the scene obviously near the beginning where he asks Emily Blunt to take a picture of him and the guys that he just fought, where everybody's getting together, and he's like, well, you take the picture, you're on the outside, I'm getting a picture with the people who matter to me here. It's the guy I just fought, not my girlfriend who came and watched me fight. And then that's kind of a reversal of it, where he's kind of sad guy outside, like, I'm not part of this. It's good acting in those moments.
It is, and you're exactly right. It sounds so interesting to talk about, but it just in the movie, and I'm not saying it like falls flat on its face at all. Like I just want to reiterate that this is not a bad movie, but it just doesn't make for quite as interesting of a movie as it does, a conversation.
Yeah. It does make me a little curious to watch the documentary, but I'm almost afraid that the documentaries almost inherently has to be more interesting because it is just the real story and real people. And since they didn't over Hollywoodize this one, it's like, well, I might as well just watch the documentary. And I imagine it might just render the movie kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. It's too bad. Like, it's really too bad. However, like I said, I'll say it again, I do still think this was a good choice for the film.
I know too. And I think a good showing from Benny Safdie. We talked about it before. Him and his brother both.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they have a certain style they're known for with their really high intensity, anxiety ridden style of filmmaking that they did with Uncut Gems and other movies. But this is a much more mature, like, seasoned director looking movie than that. So.
Yeah, and it looks great. Like, there's a lot of cool shots in it. Like, it's one of those things. Like, I'm not probably quite as negative on this as I sound like I am.
Yeah,
maybe.
no,
like
it's like a solid B, or B- movie. It's not it's a little above average, but sometimes that's the ones that just kind of get forgotten. Is they're good, just not great. I do want to shout out Benny Safdie though for I've heard him on a couple of places be interviewed and him talking about the inspiration, one of the inspirations being Rocky III, and him talking about just what a great movie that is and how good it looks and all this. And I'm like, yes, I'm all for anybody saying Rocky III is an inspiration because Rocky III is a great movie. Yeah,
because it is.
Should be an inspiration to us all.
Yeah. Absolutely, it is. Yeah. It should be.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the scores are right about where I would say are appropriate for this movie. 72% from critics, 77% from audiences. So everybody kind of feel like we are like, yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. nothing, nothing too great, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, right, pretty much in line with what we're saying. All right, here's the important stuff, though.
Yeah.
From what I could tell, I didn't see anywhere real clear on the budget. It looked like somewhere between 40 and 50 million for the budget. What can you tell us about the
I saw
50? Okay, what can
50.
you tell us about how it's done so far, Andy?
Really, really poorly. It opened to $6 million. So this movie just did not find an audience. I remember like 2 weeks ago reading like the early projections, and it started as like a $20 million opening, and then at one point, a little bit closer to time, it was 12 to 14 was what they were projecting, and then it opened to six. That's just in the United States. They don't have any worldwide numbers, so I don't know if it just has an open worldwide or not. But I mean, like by far and away, like the lowest opening of Dwayne Johnson's career, which I think was kind of to be expected with this kind of movie. But just a much, much, much lower opening than expected. I was really surprised, honestly. I mean, I would have thought The Rock and Emily Blunt alone would have carried this to like, I was thinking like that 12 to 15, 14, 15 sounded right. So I don't know. You know, I saw one article talking about how like this new Taylor Swift like concert movie came out this weekend, and they were like, that really pulled away a lot of audience. But I'm like, I don't feel like there's a lot of you know, like it's not stealing audience from the
Right. I don't
Smashing
think the
Machine. I
Venn
don't feel
diagram
like.
overlap is very strong there.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So maybe people just feel like we felt, where it was just like, you know, either people are going like, I don't even know who Mark Kerr is, or it's just people that do know who he is and just sort of like, I don't know that guy's that interesting. I don't know. Like it's to the point where even like Dwayne Johnson made an Instagram post this morning about how low the box office was for this movie. You know, he was just like, "Hey, all we can't control the box office. All we can control is our performance." And I'm so proud of this movie. I mean, you know, he knows how to play the PR game. So I mean, he gave a very, you know, good post about it. But I mean, it was low to the point where it kind of felt like he needed to acknowledge that. So
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
definitely disappointing. It makes you wonder. Like, I guess the world was not feeling the way we felt, where we were looking for that great Dwayne Johnson performance. I guess they were like, no, we want to see him be The Rock. I guess
Yeah.
because yeah, he usually is pretty dependable at the box
And
office, it seems, and that's abysmal.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's really bad. You know, my theory, and I think maybe I've shared this on here before when we did like the 80s action movies. My theory is I think The Rock is just like, he's too present and too available to everybody to the point that it's making me wonder if he just lost some of his appeal. You know, the magic, I've talked about this before, but like the magic of Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s was you didn't know every single thing about him every day. He wasn't, of course, there was no social media, but The Rock is just so present. And he likes Instagram and Twitter and all these things, or X. And so he's just always posting and updating you about his movies, and he's in the gym and he's on wrestling sometimes still. And I think he's just overexposed himself a little bit to maybe where people are getting a little bit of burnout
I
on
think
him.
that is a really great like analysis, Andy. I think that's probably the most
Yeah.
logical explanation for why that yeah, why that people are just not flocking to the theater to see him.
Yeah, you know, when I was growing up, like I said, you know, Arnold, I think, is a fair comparison to Dwayne Johnson. Maybe not in the case of the Smashing Machine, because Arnold never tried anything like that, but just the larger than life, just ripped, you know, superhero kind of guy. And there was such a, you know, just such an appeal to Arnold's movies and stuff, because that was your chance to see Arnold, because he just wasn't everywhere all the time like The Rock is. So you know, I know The Rock doesn't care about what my advice for his career is, but I almost wonder if maybe his move shouldn't be to lay a little low.
Yeah.
I don't know. But his next movie, I believe, I'm right about this. He's going to be in a Scorsese
Yeah, I think
movie.
you're right. Uh
Yeah, it's about like Hawaiian mafia. So, you know, I mean, kudos to him if he wants to go down this route of like, hey, I want to like I've done the action. Now I want to show people that I can act.
yeah.
I mean, I'm here
Well,
for
I
it.
mean, problem might be him trying to have his cake and eat it too, because he's kind of doing that, but then he's also doing live action Moana. So maybe
He is, and I think I read, I don't know if it's true or not, but they're starting like the next Jumanji
Yeah.
movie sometime in the next couple of
It
months.
gets right
So
back to your theory of
I
like,
don't know, man.
stop, like just focus on these. If you just want to be taken serious, just
Yeah,
do these serious projects and cut out some of the. You've done enough
yeah.
of the popular popcorn movies. Like maybe, you know,
He has. He's that. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It's always interesting to see when someone takes a big loss at the box office, like how they rebound. And you can. I mean, you name any A-list movie star, they've had a
yeah.
bomb before. So it's not unheard of, but it'd be interesting to see what he
Yeah.
does next.
Uh, just tangentially related because we were bringing up box office and you mentioned the Taylor Swift, whatever it is. What is it? A concert, a movie? I don't know what it is. It's made over $80
I don't
million
know.
dollars, and that depresses me, Andy. I don't want to live in a world where good movies are struggling and Taylor Swift official release party of a
Yeah.
showgirl is what it's called makes over 80 million in less than a week.
It's so weird. Yeah, it's really weird
I
times we
mean,
live in.
for crying out loud, that Taylor Swift movie has made more than One Battle After Another. It's made more than Weapons. It's made more than just a lot of really good movies that are successful movies and still have not made
Yeah,
what that did.
yeah, yeah. It's really weird times we live in.
Yeah. Uh, well, man, Andy, I said before we saw this movie that I was not super excited about a lot of the movie slate for the rest of fall, and that the Smashing Machines was one of my last like really anticipated movies.
Yeah,
I feel kind of bummed out that we've had it now because there will be some good movies along the way, and I'm sure some that will be great that I just don't know about. But I'm kind of left with like a little
hmm
bit of a empty feeling after having checked that one off the box, going, well, what's next?
yeah. I was really bummed out when I checked the release schedule for this coming weekend, and the big thing is Tron Ares, which is a movie I am just having a really, really hard time being
Yeah,
excited
I think
about.
that one and the Channing Tatum movie, Roofman, which I feel like I've seen
Oh,
that
Roof
preview. That's
Man.
become the new preview that I've seen 100 times, and it's one of those previews I feel like, okay, now I've seen the movie.
It definitely is. It's that preview, and it's
Mm,
Running Man for me. I see the Running Man in every single movie
yeah,
I go see.
but Roofman
Yeah.
just gives me real vibes of that Channing Tatum movie that came out last year, and I'm blanking on the name, the space movie he did with Scarlett Johansson. That was it was just like it. It was kind of felt like it had
Yeah.
the same vibe. It's like, oh, it's just kind of a nice, pleasant, well made, forgettable movie. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with this one.
Was that called Fly Me to the Moon?
I
Is that
think
what
you're
that's
right.
called?
That tells you how memorable that movie
I don't
is.
even
It's
remember. Yeah.
just yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Poor Channing Tatum. I feel like he's a good actor and it's been a minute since I feel like he's had a really good part to play. Maybe this one will surprise me. I've actually been surprised with the
I
Rotten Tomato
agree.
scores were actually higher than I expected on that one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'm going to drown my sorrows in just going to see scary movies all month, like the new Black Phone movie, Shelby Oaks. There's that movie playing that's like the found footage type horror movie,
Oh,
but as
Good
a
Boy or something
dog,
like
like
that.
a
Is
like
that
it
what it's
stars a
called?
dog. Yeah, it's an hour. Yeah, and it's an hour and 12 minutes long. So I might run up and catch that later
That's
this week.
that's amazing. I,
Yeah,
that might be the shortest movie I've ever heard of being in theaters. It's yeah.
so, same. And then we've talked about it before, kind of all building towards the original Halloween playing at the end of the month. So it's good. I'm gonna lean heavily on scary movies. I think for the
Yeah.
next few weeks.
There is, I guess that movie Good Fortune that Aziz Ansari wrote might be interesting, mainly just because it's got Keanu as an angel. Like, I love Keanu.
Yeah,
I don't know, some mix of that. I
yeah.
know some people that are excited about the Springsteen movie. I'm just not. Yeah, I don't know. Another
I am
biopic,
not
and
one
I
of
don't
those
have any
people.
connection to Springsteen as an artist, so I don't know. Maybe it will
Same,
surprise me.
same.
Like we talked about, we both enjoyed the one with Chalamet last year, where he played Bob Dylan a little more than we expected because we had the same
Yeah.
thoughts of that one, like, oh, another biopic, another musician I don't have a connection to. But I don't know.
Yeah, I did enjoy that movie. What was that movie even called? No Direction Home or one? I don't even remember now. I can't remember. I did like it
We're
though. It
really
doesn't sound like I
crushing it as
did,
movie
but
people right now. We can't.
a complete unknown. A complete unknown.
It is a complete unknown. Thank you.
That's what it was called. It is because I could not remember the name of it, even though I liked it. Jeez. Yeah, trust our opinion, everybody, even though we can't remember the names of movies. And we can't decide whether we want to call him Dwayne Johnson or The Rock, so we just both switch back and forth 85 times during this podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's probably a good sign. We should wrap it up, Andy, because I think our minds are gone.
Time to stop. I'm gonna make myself sick at my
That's
tummy
exactly
if I
right.
keep doing this.
Just like Rock Johnson. So
Exactly.
There you
DJ.
go.
I'm just gonna call him DJ.
Yeah. So wow, I always feel bad. Like I'm not giving the audience any sort of strong feeling. It's like, hey, everybody, go check this out. It's okay.
It's kind of good, and it's kind of not good.
That's right.
You're welcome, everybody. Glad we
That's
could
right.
clear that up for you. Here's the way to say it: go see it to appreciate Dwayne Johnson's
Yes,
performance.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's what you should.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, yeah, that's what it kind of comes down to is the people I know in my life who don't watch a lot of movies are like, should I take the time to watch this one? I'd say, yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah. There you go. So we ended on
Absolutely.
Kind of
That's what we like to do here, Andy. We like to be positive about movies. So
we do, and we'll be back next week with
something is exactly right. So everybody, go see movies. Go see something. Go see something again if you can't. If you're not interested in any of these movies, I've thought multiple times about going to see even Weapons again, or even One Battle After Another, which I was not as high on as you were. I've thought about going to see it again because, it's.
Yeah, I would really like to get a second
actually would
viewing
too.
of
I'd
that.
kind of like to digest again. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you guys again next week.
Yep.